Hello, my name is Kathleen Shaw, and today I'll be doing my presentation explaining why dress codes in institutes of higher education shouldn't be enforced. So the topic wanted to discuss was the topic of dress codes in higher education. And I wanted to look into that, and I learned a little in my informative paper about whether or not there were dress codes in higher education. And now that I know that there are, in fact, some dress codes in certain institutions, I wanted to explain why I think that they shouldn't be mandatory in those institutions of higher education. So, in my informative paper, I looked into the question as to whether or not there were institutes of higher education that implemented dress codes, and I found that there are many that do. So, some examples are in many religious schools, there are dress codes. In many business schools, there's a professional dress code that's enforced. In some historically black colleges and universities, and some HBCUs, there are dress codes that are enforced. And in many community colleges, there are dress code rules enforced. And in community colleges, that's becoming more and more popular. The reason that I feel as though they should not be enforced, there's actually a couple reasons. So, some of my reasons for thinking that they shouldn't be enforced, I read a lot about, particularly in high schools, but I think it translates to colleges as well, that dress codes can enforce racism, sexism, classism, and transphobia. Dress codes, and those are some of the reasons that people in high school particularly fight against dress codes. Dress codes do not actually help students learn valuable skills about professional etiquette, and dress codes put too much focus on an aspect of professional life that might soon be obsolete. So, in terms of actually helping students to learn valuable skills about professional etiquette, dress codes don't necessarily teach people to know how to dress, they just force people to dress a certain way. So it's not actually teaching people how to dress. And a really clear example of that is you don't see people who went to, for instance, Catholic high school walking around in their mid 40s still wearing their uniform from when they were in high school years ago. Just because you have an enforced dress code, that doesn't necessarily teach people how to dress in certain circumstances. And for my support about this focus on an aspect of professional life that might soon be obsolete, one of the things I looked into is the fact that business culture, particularly in the face of so much telework that's going on right now, so much remote work that's going on right now, that culture of dressing up and going to the office maybe won't be around for that much longer. So many more people are working from home, they're doing remote work. I'm sure in the face of the pandemic, many people have seen joking memes about that, joking articles about that, about the newscaster who is working from home and not wearing pants, just a jacket. It seems as though the professional attire, that idea of getting dressed up in your nice pants and getting dressed up in your skirts and your heels and going to an actual location of physical work to be around other people dressed like you is right now not as strong as it used to be, and maybe going forward in the future won't be as important as it once was. So the counter arguments that my opponents might have to my claim that dress codes shouldn't be enforced in higher education. One is that students entering the professional world need to know how to dress. And that's not something I would disagree with. I think that's absolutely true. But the problem is that creating a dress code does not actually help with developing this skill. So, this is a point that I covered a little bit in my supports, that just because you have people dressing in a certain way doesn't mean that they're actually learning how to dress. A good example of this would also be when you tell somebody, okay, here's what is okay, here's what's acceptable for school, and they meet that criteria, they might think that that's their uniform for the rest of their professional life. But they might be in a situation where uniforms are required. They might be working on a major where they have to wear scrubs. This also might be, if you think in terms of even an office setting. If you say, well, some days it's business, you know, it's very formal business attire, and other days it's business casual. If they've been dressing business casual to attend school for years, they may not be able to tell the difference. So, creating a dress code doesn't actually help people do the critical thinking work of what to wear when, if that's necessary. Another counter argument is that enforcing dress codes at an institution guarantees that students always look professional, which can be a boost in terms of impromptu networking. So, in a college situation, you may be encountering people who might become your mentors, who might be able to offer you job interviews or job experience. Perhaps your professor knows something and decides, oh, here's an opportunity for you. Or perhaps your professor has a friend who's a lecturer or has a friend in the field and connects you in informal ways. That's one of the benefits of college, in fact. So the idea is that if you're always dressed and ready to go, you're always going to make a good impression, which is also true. However, students who have an awareness of these professional goals should have that in mind anyway. If you know you're in an event where you might be networking, or you're in a class where you have a professor you want to impress, that is a skill that you should be doing on your own. As opposed to just happen in a situation to just happen to be dressed because your school requires it. There's something even more impressive about dressing up of your own accord. So, my conclusion is that I understand that professional dress can be an important part of employment, but it would probably be more helpful to offer a voluntary class for those who want it and need it and are interested in it to take on professional expectations rather than giving a blanket mandatory dress code to some people who may not need it and may not want it.